I'll do a quick roll call vote. Counselor Elfelman.
He's gone this evening.
That's what I thought. So, Counselor Hutchison.
Here.
Counselor Youngman.
Oh, here.
Counselor Merritt.
Present.
Counselor Papke.
No, he's here.
Spacebar didn't work. Here, sorry.
I believe Counselor Law is absent tonight also. And I'm here. So please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United States of America.
Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and
Justice for all.
All right. Mr. City Manager, are there any additions to the agenda?
There are no additions tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
We'll move on to the consent agenda. I hope everybody's had a chance to read it, and if so, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
This is Counselor Hutchison, and I'll move to approve the consent agenda. This is Counselor Youngman, and I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion before we vote? Hearing none, I'll go to a roll call vote. So, Counselor Hutchison,
Aye.
Counselor Youngman,
Aye.
Counselor Merritt,
Aye.
Counselor Papke,
Abstain.
and the mayor votes aye. So passes with 4 and 1 abstention. All right, so we will move on to council business. Partial vacation on Northwest Beaver Street. Josh Smith.
Evening, council. For the record, Joshua Smith.
Actually, Mr. Smith. Mayor Beebe, this actually is a public hearing, needs to be announced.
Okay, I didn't know if he needed to say anything first, but
No.
right.
I was going to announce it.
Before we move into a public hearing, I'll read the announcement. So the council shall now hold a public hearing regarding a potential ordinance vacating a portion of Northwest Beaver Street and a portion of an alley off Northwest 7th Street between Northwest Beaver and North Main Street. This hearing was noticed in the Central Oregonian one each week for 2 consecutive weeks prior to this hearing, as well as posted on our city website. The hearing will open with a presentation from City Planner Josh Smith. After Mr. Smith's presentation, we will then give the public an opportunity to provide oral testimony regarding the proposed sale of real property. Comments on other matters are not permitted during this public hearing. We will unmute the public line, and if you wish to speak, please do so. Our technology will identify the number and mute any other numbers. I will ask the unmuted speaker to provide your name and address, and then you may present your testimony to the council. After each speaker, I will ask if there is anybody else on the line that wishes to speak regarding the proposed sale of property. We will do this until I hear silence. After the oral testimony, I will read any written testimony that was presented to council. So I'll open the public hearing.
And Mayor Beebe, I just wanted to clarify one thing. It's actually not the sale of property, it's the vacation of property. But so that was just a mistake on the script there. But regardless, Mr. Smith will be presenting about the vacation, and then any of the public will have the opportunity to provide testimony to that vacation of the actual piece of property that is being proposed.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Josh Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. So like it was stated, a public hearing for a vacation of a portion of Beaver Street and the alley between Main and Northwest Beaver Street. This was a vacation requested by Par Lumber, who is the business just to the south, after a large purchase of what was known as the Bailey Auto Dealership. So they now own both sides of this vacation. As you see in the photo above and what was attached to your packet, the yellow areas are what's being requested for vacation. That would be eliminating the right-of-way of the street currently maintained by the city and bring it back into fee title property to Par Lumber. As stated, this was noticed for 2 consecutive weeks prior to the hearing. A mailed notice was also sent to the neighboring properties on Northwest Beaver Street. They're the only 2 properties that border this vacation. And Par Lumber, just as a note, the manager of Par Lumber also reached out to them directly and has communicated to them. As stated in the staff report, fiscal impact, there's really very little fiscal impact to the city. They essentially don't have to maintain these portions of right-of-way anymore. And there's some legal fees with adopting the ordinance and recording the actual vacation. The recommendation from staff is we do recommend this vacation. This was presented to the council on April 13th, where they voted to proceed on their own motion. Typically, when something is recommended by staff, we tend to go into the council's own motion to prevent the petition and a longer sequence. So with that, there are 2 recommendations on the staff report at the end. These are conditions that are boilerplate, typically used when the ordinance is passed. This will come back to council for an ordinance. And those conditions basically state that Par Lumber is responsible for any utilities that might be moved. One has already been identified as a power pole. Other utilities will be located, and anything that needs to be removed or an easement provided will be provided. And the other, number 2, that condition is essentially just a boilerplate protection of the city. So we no longer have responsibility for this. And if you want to fence it, it's up to you. So with that, I'll take any questions from council and we can proceed with the public hearing.
Is there any questions for Josh?
Josh, when Par Lumber reached out to the neighbors, did they have any concerns?
That's a good point. So we did not receive any comment from the neighbors directly. I did speak to the manager of Par Lumber before the hearing. The neighbor across, I guess on the west side of Beaver Street, he had some comments about how much room he'd have when he backs out of his driveway, things like that. Par Lumber talked about working with him on maybe setting the fence back slightly. They didn't seem to have any problem with that. And the one on the corner really was more concerned about what was happening on 7th Street and whether they would have to build a sidewalk and do those types of things. And we basically said, no, this vacation has no impact on their property at all.
Thank you.
All right, if no one else from the council has anything. James, do we have anybody on the line?
There's no one dialed into that bridge.
Right, and as far as I know, we didn't receive any written comment. Is that correct, Josh? I didn't see any.
I did not receive any written comment or verbal.
We'd also want to inquire with Ms. Morgan if the city received any written testimony.
Oh, yeah. Lisa, did we?
No, we have
receive
not.
any?
No, we have not received any.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If there's no further discussion on this, this will come back as an ordinance, correct? And we can close the public hearing if no one is available to speak or is written.
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor. The public hearing would close and we would bring an ordinance for the council's consideration to formally vote on this matter in 2 weeks. It being an ordinance, it will require 2 readings.
Okay. Well, hearing no testimony, I will close the public meeting. And thank you, Josh, for that. And we'll see this back in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to staff reports and requests. City Manager Steve Forrester.
Thank you, Mayor Beebe. We'll start out tonight with a little update from the railroad that General Manager Matt Wiederholt provided. This is specific to the rebuilding of the spur track from Lamont up the hill to the wood grain property. And Matt is reporting that H&S contracting started moving equipment in this week and will start replacing the ties on Thursday, the railroad ties. This will include the rebuild of the Hudspeth Hill spur that ran behind the old Hudspeth sawmill, which is now part of the Contact or Endura. And through the agreement we have in place with Prineville campus as a result of that. In addition to the Hudspeth Hill, the railroad will rebuild 5 switches here in town and replace the deteriorating cross ties from the Prineville Junction to Lone Pine Crossing. In total, it's about 3.5 miles of track rehabbed and about 2,300 railroad ties being replaced. The contractor will be here 15 days approximately to finish up everything. So again, for those of you who haven't seen the local paper, nice article in there explaining our public-private partnership with the new owners of the former wood grain property, now called the Prineville campus. So hopefully that's going to result in some rail freight traffic to continue to build out our portfolio business at the City of Prineville Railroad. From the police department, we have been in negotiations with our police union, which includes the 911 dispatch folks. We do have a tentative 4-year agreement that has been decided and has not been signed. So it is again tentative, but we're very confident that that will be finalized here in the next week or so. So that's good, a good deal for both the city and our employees. Very amicable, very reasonable. Also, Chief Dale and Captain Larry wanted to provide a quick update. They are making very good progress with moving police operations up to the new facility, and they fully expect to be fully operational at the new facility by May 17th. So we'll be working with council and the community on setting up some opportunities to kick off the new facility and show it off a little bit. Hopefully it'll get easier to do in the weeks ahead as we work our way out of the COVID issue. From Crook County, I'm in my 12th year on the Crook County Budget Committee. I actually started that a few months before I came to work at the city. And it's been a transformational experience. We did approve a balanced budget today for over $93 million for Crook County. This is a 1-year budget. It is, again, balanced budget. It does include a increase and better controls as far as contingencies and debt reserves, which is very positive. And probably the most interesting thing is their funding is tight, but very much in control, which is excellent news for the county. There's also a compliment in here for the city and especially Liz and her team, Lori and the rest of the finance gang, as there are a lot of telltale signs of the Prineville city budget in terms of how the county budget is formatted. And that's not by mistake. It's not by accident. We've coordinated with the county. We've helped their new CFO, Janet, and we've shared a lot of information. So it's kind of neat to see a nice alignment between the city and the county budget. Also, Eric and I wanted to update the council on the work we've been doing with the recovery funds. And there's several different streams of funding that we believe will be impactful to us here at the city, along with the county in a lot of instances. We've been working very closely with Representative Iverson, along with Senator Lithicum, in terms of some pass-through money from the state for several different projects. We have identified those projects, which we discussed at last 2 weeks ago meeting. That's coming through, it looks like. We think we have all the I's dotted and T's crossed to access that funding. That's about $1.5 million. And in addition to that, Eric and I have been working with primarily BJ Westland at Senator Merkley's office for another opportunity for some federal recovery dollars that are going to be a little bit more specific to existing programs, whether that's an EPA program, whether that's a USDA program, U.S. Forest Service, those type of things. That's how you qualify, is working through those programs. So we don't know all there is to know, but it looks as though we're in a pretty good spot, and they do have approved the projects that we have presented. So hopefully we can access some additional funding. I don't have the total number on what that might be, but it's significant as we understand it. And all of these funds I just mentioned are over and above that first 2.2 million that we've been talking about as a pass through from the state. So when we see the final and understand it better, we will share that, of course, with council and the public. Lastly, the budget, our biannual budget, is coming together well. Liz and her team will be putting the final touches on the document for release on, I believe, May 20th. Correct me if I'm wrong, Liz. And it looks pretty good. We've been able to do some very significant funding things, i.e. the police building without going to bond is a tremendous accomplishment. We had some cost overruns there we had to overcome that caused a little bit of heartburn, but all in all, it looks like we have a pretty solid budget, and we're looking forward to getting together with council and the budget committee in the next several weeks and putting the final touches on that. At this time, I'd like to ask Liz Schutte, our finance director, or Lori Hooper, our senior accountant, if they have anything they'd like to add regarding the budget.
I don't think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Liz. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. I think you did a great job, Steve. I just want to apologize for bouncing around the finance committee meeting, but we're just trying to accommodate everybody's schedule and get everything covered so we can do it in one meeting. And I hope that the meeting that I presented at the last of today will accommodate everyone. Please let me know if it does not.
Very good. That does conclude my manager's report for this evening. Are there any questions anybody has of me? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Now we'll move on to strategic planning scheduling discussion. Steve Forrester.
Thank you, Mayor. We wanted to take a couple minutes and just have a quick discussion with our council regarding setting up a strategic planning time and date. Lisa Morgan, are you unmuted and able to join in this discussion, please?
I am here.
Thank you. So we've had a difficult time so far putting together a time frame, selecting a time frame rather, that allowed for full participation from all council members. We have so far shied away from a weekend date, and that's certainly, we have the ability to put that on the table should we choose. My point would be is I'm a little bit anxious. I'd like to get this scheduled. I think it's time that we get going on this. We have a lot of things in front of us that I think are important. We have a great strategic vision. We have a great strategic plan that we've been working from, but it's very important, in my opinion, that we take a look at what's coming up. We take a look at some of those long-range opportunities. We keep our eye on the ball. A great example would be the roll-offs of the tax abatements with the big users here in Prineville. And so those are the type of strategic things I think we need to discuss. And it's very, very important. And I think you'd all agree. And therefore, I would like to open it up to Lisa but more importantly, ask the council for a little bit of direction. The end result might be, we might not be able to catch everybody for a session or two, but we need to get rolling on this, in my opinion. And I'm hoping to get some council support on finding a time that we're just going to be able to go with. Lisa, would you add anything, please?
No, Steve, not much. I think you did a pretty good job covering it. We've sent out several doodle polls, and so far have been unsuccessful in getting 100% participation to our council to be able to meet all at once. And as you mentioned, it's very important that we have all of our council engaged at the same time during these discussions. So I guess all I would have to add at this point, we did, as you mentioned earlier, include weekend dates to select, and those dates were not very successful. We had maybe 2 counselors select a weekend. So I guess at this point, we're just asking if everybody can take a look at their calendars and let us know what date would work best for everybody. If you have to pull out your cell phones right now and check your calendars, that would be okay. But we just would really like to get this scheduled.
Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to offer up to the council tonight is we can certainly eat the elephant one bite at a time. And what I mean by that is we could certainly schedule it as if it were a workshop, meaning 5:15 to 6:15 or 5 o'clock to 6:15 on the night of a council night, so that we don't take up more time, especially as we're getting into the nicer weather, nicer season, travel season, and so forth. So if that's something that you would like for Lisa and I to present as an option, is to, and it might take several of these hour and a half timeframes to complete a process, but that's fine. That's no problem. So that's another option I'd like to offer up, and hopefully get a little bit of discussion tonight from council if that's something you'd like us to move forward with. Again, that would be scheduling a strategy session at the same time we typically do a workshop.
Steve, to me, that sounds great, and I'm willing, honestly, to come in whenever needed, but hopefully the other counselors will speak to this also, but I like that. I like coming in before a council meeting and going over, using that time.
That would be great. Can we get some input from other council members?
This is
This
Gail.
is Counselor.
All
Go
right.
ahead, Gail.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Yeah, this is Gail. I like the idea before a city council meeting. It's just May and June with the closing of school and kiddos' graduations. It just gets to be a really busy time, and we're doing our budget in June. I like the idea before a city council meeting.
Thank you.
This is Counselor Youngman. I do like the idea about before a council meeting, because with my work schedule, it's all over the place, and I really, I can't get away from that. There's no one to replace me. So before a council meeting, it'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Counselor Papinian. I think it'd just be easier kind of ringing the same bell I keep hearing. I think before council meetings would be the easiest for me also.
Great, Counselor Pappy. Thank you.
This is Counselor Hutchison. That works for me too. However, I might not make the next council meeting.
Okay. Well, this is fabulous, council. Thank you so much. I think we've got our answer, Lisa, and we'll certainly be sensitive, Janet, to getting those scheduled where we don't have a conflict, and to make sure we got everybody. So great. This
Okay.
solves our issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Steve, was there anything else on that?
I have nothing else. That solves our issue and fixes the opportunity.
Perfect.
This is Counselor Youngman. I just want to say thank you to Lisa for all the hard work that she's had to do with all the different requests. So thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. She does a lot of hard work. Thank you, Lisa.
Right. We'll move on to committee reports. Are there any committee reports from the council? I don't hear any. So no committee reports, it sounds like. We have no ordinances and no resolutions. So we are down to the end of the meeting. If there's nothing else to come before the council, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Counselor Papke, so moved.
Second by Youngman.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Have a good evening.